Hello, and welcome to episode 27 of St. Luke's Gallery. The purpose of this site is to share my appreciation of sacred art with you, and hopefully to persuade you to look at art in general in a new perspective. Today is the 6th of January 2024, and we are still in the Christmas season, specifically at the Feast of the Epiphany. So what better a subject for this new episode than this little painting, well actually it's not very little, by the Portuguese painter Domingos Sequeira. As we've done in previous episodes, let's start off with a brief bio of the artist. Domingos Sequeira was born in 1768 in the Belém section of Lisbon into a modest family. He studied art at the Academy of Lisbon and then moved to Rome to become a student of the noted religious art painter Antonio Cavallucci. He became an acclaimed artist by the age of 13 and was hired to work on the João Ferreira's palace, later becoming the honorary member of the Academy of St. Luke before returning to Portugal. He became a royal court painter for King John VI of Portugal, and he died in Rome in 1837 at the age of 69. Today's subject, the Adoration of the Magi, is one of a four-part series by Sequeira from the early part of the 19th century. We're going to take a look at all four of them individually, but here they are at a snapshot starting clockwise: the Adoration of the Magi, the Descent of the Cross, the Ascension, and the Last Judgment. These four works of art were all purchased in 1845 by the first Duke of Palmela from Sequeira's daughter, and today can be seen in Lisbon's National Museum of Ancient Art. This series has been called by the art critic José Augusto Franca to be Sequeira's aesthetic and spiritual testament. Sequeira's Adoration of the Magi is the only depiction of the Adoration that I found in a non-intimate setting. Take a look yourself, and you're going to find other examples of the scene in the life of Christ with just the three wise men, the Holy Family, and maybe some shepherds along with the manger animals. Here, our Lord has a much wider audience, and that alone makes it interesting. Because there are so many people, there's a lot going on, but the painting is actually quite focused if you look at it for a minute. Note how the intense light from what we can assume to be the Star of Bethlehem at the top radiates down through the Blessed Virgin and stops on the Christ child. And note how the direction of the people on the left and the right all have them looking towards him, with those in the very foreground bowing before him. And what's up with all those people? Well, Sequeira isn't around to ask him questions, but as I study the scene, I see a mix of elaborately dressed people and others looking more modest. Some are clearly focused in adoration of the Christ child, but there are some others looking up in the Star of Bethlehem's direction, and note to the right of St. Joseph there appear to be the ruins of a rather large building. Could it be that Sequeira depicted not only the adoration of the Magi, but also the fact that this was the long-awaited Messiah, who some would recognize and others would not, leading ultimately to destruction? I don't know, that's my personal take on viewing this. With a painting this detailed, I would not be doing you a service if I didn't have a few zoom-ins. So here's the first one on the main focus, the Holy Family and the Magi. Composition-wise, it's outstanding. Note how Our Lady is looking down towards our Lord, who in turn is looking up towards heaven from where he came. Meanwhile, St. Joseph is not insignificantly holding the Blessed Mother's mantle from dragging it on the ground. It's a nice touch, and if you think about it, it's very much similar to what we see during consecration at the Mass or in a Eucharistic procession. And have you identified all three of the Magi yet? The first two are pretty easy, but the third one is the one prostrate on the ground and not the well-dressed young man behind him with a gift in his hand. That clearly is some type of a jar, and it's a rather elaborate jar, so perhaps he's one of the assistants of the Magi, the one that's prostrate before our Lord. Over to the left of the Holy Family, I will let the scene sit with you for a minute, and you can judge for yourself if it backs up my personal interpretation. Note how on the far right, a young woman with a red hat on and a few people behind her are clearly fixated on the direction of the Holy Family, and the same on the opposite end where there's a mother in a red cape with a baby and some peasant-looking people just behind her. But in between them, there are some very well-dressed, more intellectual-looking types fixated on the sky above. Perhaps they're scientists. To the right of them, there's what looks to be some type of a soldier inserting himself into the crowd as if he's saying, "Move along, folks, there's nothing to see here." Over on the far right of the Holy Family, the row behind the Magi all appear to be much more focused. If they aren't in outright adoration, they appear to be at least curious. But note that there is a woman looking directly up, and to her northwest, an older man and a young man are snickering. It's no surprise that a work of art this immense had a few studies before the main event was executed, and here's one of them. This chalk and charcoal study is in itself a beautiful work of art to meditate upon. And that's because the artist composed it in such a way that our attention is led to exactly where it should be focused. And here's another study of one of the Magi. The final product, as you can see, turned up slightly different. Let's take a brief look at the other three paintings in the series. Here, in the Descent of the Cross, we see another scene with a lot of people, some clearly in sorrow and others not so much, despite the storm about to hit. Note how the body of our Lord is off the cross and to the right, while Our Lady alone, for a minute, is in the center. There's a lot to see here that harkens back to the passion and death of our Lord. This is one of many great works of art to meditate upon for that particular reason. I don't care for the Ascension as much as the other two. It's not bad, and I think the left side of the painting is very engaging, but the depiction of our Lord ascending to heaven looks like it was kind of like he was pasted on. It's not all that well blended in with the sky, and the sources of light that he should be within that are clearly radiating on the people below is off. I also think, but I can't confirm for sure, that the right side of the painting is unfinished. And definitely unfinished is the fourth in the series, The Last Judgment. Still, it has its moments, and I would love to have seen what the artist had in mind had he been able to finish this work of art. Domingos Sequeira is an artist that I was not familiar with at all prior to doing research on this episode. Most of his other works were secular in nature, and some delved into the not-so-sacred world of mythology, but it goes to show that God can do what he wants with whom he wants, and his depiction of the Adoration of the Magi is one of my favorites and, in my personal opinion, a great work of art to meditate upon today during the octave of the Epiphany and beyond. And that concludes episode 27 of St. Luke's Gallery. I'll have a new episode soon, so until then, please visit stlukesgallery.com and also the channels on BitChute, Vimeo, Rumble, or YouTube. Questions or comments can be sent to mail@stlukesgallery.com. Thank you again, and may God bless you.